LANLF Foundation here?
You repeat the question, Melissa?
Oh, is there anyone from LANLF Foundation here? All right, well, I think we should get started. Welcome everyone to the March segment of the LANLF Foundation Grantees Evaluation Institute. Next slide, please. Oh yeah, so if everyone could add their, including me, could add their organization, that would be awesome. Can't find myself. Where am I? I'll do that later. Next slide. And Caitlin is the go-to person if you have any Zoom questions. You can find her in the chat. And welcome organizations. Let's look at the next slide. This is who's here, who's participating in the Eval Institute. The next slide is going to go over just to situate us. Oh, sorry, I went too far. I'm sorry, if you could go back to the LANLF Foundation. We just always want to thank LANLF Foundation for making this possible. And if anyone is on the call from LANLF Foundation, we'd love to hear your welcome. If not, we'll welcome you when you can join us. Okay, next slide, please. Okay, so we're now in month 3, and we've got our logic models somewhat together, maybe all the way together. We have tools now for measuring anything and everything. For those of you, and I know many of you were at the February 15th ECHO, you understand the idea of a theory of change. So we really have a lot of foundation now to work on. And what we want to do today is focus the evaluation. So figure out making a plan for what we're going to do next. And in order to do that, we need to focus. The March 15th next week, or this coming Tuesday, will be about surveys. So we're building the foundation in the Eval Institute, and then in the ECHOs, there's going to be lots of trainings. A lot of them are about data and how to collect data. Next slide, please. And just so you know, the point of this is that you have tools and that you are working towards a plan. Our facilitators are the same. So I'm just going to let you know it's still us. And next slide. And then you know about the ECHO since you've already attended that, and you should have received an invitation already. The link is always the same. Okay. And then just as a reminder, we're hoping that you're increasingly able to make time for your own mission time, 1.5 to 2 hours per month. In these workshops, we are giving you the idea and a little bit of a start. We're not looking for you to complete work during the workshop. There's not enough time for that. And so the 1.5 to 2 hours that you set aside is really, really great time to continue the work. We're also going to be asking you, and if you want to volunteer, that's awesome, to share anything that you've been working on in the Institute in the ECHO. And I think that you saw how that went. It's very laid back. And we all love seeing each other's work. It's very, very, it gives us ideas and it's inspiring. And then of course, you're welcome, more than welcome to consult with facilitators in between sessions. All right, so the next slide is the feedback from the last session. And so the level looks okay. The material covered this time, we were a little skewed the other way, where maybe it was a little bit, not a lot, but for the most part, we seem to be hitting it okay for most of you. The things that people commented on that were working are the organization breakout rooms. People really appreciated that individual breakout room. And if you remember, that was something that was an idea that you gave us that we were able to accommodate. And you also appreciated the time to work on a little bit of time to work on your stuff. Folks like the small group sessions, that it's the same people, so we get to know each other, and reported good discussions there. Definitely seeing real examples and also sharing the work are pluses for this institute. And many of you appreciated that the presentation was digestible. And then for the changes, we're going to do our best to give you clear steps for breakout rooms. Possibly, we're going to try to put the instruction before you go to the breakout room. We'll try to put the instructions on what we're doing in the breakout room. There was a suggestion to have a place to share the work. And so we've set up a OneDrive, which you should be able to access just by clicking on the link. And Caitlin's going to put that into the chat. And asking always for more examples. And then the time in our last session seemed to be a little crunched. And so we're trying something different today. And I think that we'll see that soon. Oh, we'll see it right now. Oh, we didn't change that slide name. Okay, so this is actually the focusing topic. So we're gonna have Claudia is going to give a brief, another digestible presentation on focusing the evaluation. And then we're going to give you 25 minutes plus 15 minutes if you need it through the break to work on the ideas that she's going to present. And then we'll have a half hour to debrief. So this last time there was more going on. So this is a little more focused, appropriate for the topic. So let's see how that works. And I think that I'm going to turn it over to Claudia.
All right. So before getting started, do you guys have any questions about the work we did last time on rubrics? Because it's part of our first, it was part of our first welcome back. I think we have some time for it. So if you guys have any questions about them or any work you did, you want to ask it right now, this would be okay. No? Okay. All right, then let me start it with this section. All right, so the idea of this session is to provide you with a process that will help you draft your evaluation goals and your evaluation questions. This does not constitute the entirety of an evaluation plan, but it is the foundation of an evaluation plan. Okay. So the idea of spending time focusing the evaluation is to establish or come to a shared understanding of where is it where that we're going. And this couple of quotations I have here are from various sources actually. And I think they're fairly obvious to us. If you don't know where you're headed, you will likely end up somewhere else. And that makes sense individually. What I find very interesting of this process, and we do this every fall in the lab with our partner organizations, is that even when you think you know where you're heading, what is revealing about this process is learning that we all have some variation within organizations of where we think we're heading. So going through this process is a good idea, not just to know where you're going, but to have a shared understanding of where you're going. And the other one, what I'm hoping this process will help you with is to free you a little bit from expectation about what you should ask, which tends to be driven a lot by our funding responsibilities or responsibilities to our funding agencies, and focus more on what is it that you want to know for your organization. Okay. The process of focusing the evaluation means asking yourselves, what is it that you want to evaluate? Which is, again, seems obvious, right? But also ask questions that might be a little bit harder to answer. Why are we doing this? Is this just because it's interesting? Who will use the results? Are you producing or creating all this work just for something to be shelved somewhere? Or does it respond to an actual demand for a need in your organization? And who will be doing the decisions based on the information you provide, and how will the results be used? And I'll go through these elements as we go through a process that will help us obtain these useful and meaningful evaluation goals and questions. Okay. So something that we as a lab recommend, and we are not unique on this, just pick any random evaluation book published in the past 10 years, and this recommendation will come from them too. We recommend for this stage a collaborative approach. And that means identifying your stakeholders. It will help everyone understand the evaluation and the program. And because you're bringing everybody to the table, this is where you get the most usable results. The second recommendation, and this is definitely from the lab, based on our experience too, building capacity, is to keep your mission in sight and in mind. Because the process of focusing the evaluation, you will find that sometimes you take detours and start to think about the 1,000 things you really want to know. And going back to your mission will keep you centered. All right. So who should be at the table once you begin the process of focusing the evaluation? As you identify your stakeholders, if it's for a specific program or the organization at large, in addition to the managers or decision makers in the program, have the people who designed it. You will get to hear a bunch about their intent in designing the program. The staff doing the implementation, if there are gaps between design and implementation. And of course, your admin staff, because the admin staff, like it or not, they have their eye on multiple aspects of a program, and might catch things that you don't think are happening. In the literature, you will also see, and actually from my own personal experience, having former clients is very helpful in deciding your evaluation questions, but also potential clients. So if you're working with schools, having a school that might work with you in the future, just bring them to the table, can be a very useful add-on. Now, I do want to, and this is not the training session for that, but I do want to acknowledge the big elephant in the room when it comes to bringing multiple people to the table, and that is that there might be an imbalance of power. If you are the program director saying, oh, this is what I think this organization needs to evaluate right now, your voice will have more impact than somebody who does not have the decision-making capability. So approaching this with an openness to hear all opinions is definitely something that will yield better results. All right. So this is our suggested process, and we have a guide for you to work as a team. So the first step, and it sounds super obvious, is for every person who's at the table to just state what do they think are the program's missions and outcomes. And what you're going to run into this as people talk about it is that everybody is going to say some variation of what you've already written in your mission statement. And there's also going to be somebody who's going to go and say, but you know what, we're also achieving this, even if it's not written. And having a discussion about those things that are unwritten it might help you redefine your program objectives. If you already have a logic model or have thought through this or have gone through this thought process of defining where are our clients or what are the outcomes that we have once we're done working with our clients, and you already have a logic model, have it available for everybody to see. And it's a good starting point, but having this discussion really is important. Now, I want to give you an example. 2 years ago, we sat down and actually thought through our outcomes as Evaluation Lab. And almost unintentionally, we've become more intentional about it, they realized we were a bit of a pipeline for the evaluation workforce. There were several of our students who were interested in becoming professional evaluators. And as we figured this as part of one of the things we were achieving, we've become more purposeful in serving our students as they try to transition from the graduate studies into a career. And it came from a conversation. It didn't come from what was written. If you have a program that has multiple target clients, administrators, teachers, students, and so on and so forth, it is possible that you come up with a fairly long list of outcomes. And this is a good time for you to also have a discussion about priorities. There are methods for those discussions when you have a long list. One of them is for everybody who's at the table to rank their priorities, and you put them on Post-its on a board for everybody to see and come to an agreement on what are the top outcomes that you're interested in for an evaluation. So this step 2 seems very related to the first one, but it is a bit more focused. Here you're beginning to narrow it down to what you want to learn from the evaluation. That's the question you're asking here. You can flat out ask, what is it that each of the people at the table want to learn from the evaluation? But sometimes that can be tricky because it's a very broad question that invites very broad answers. So let's say you've identified an outcome that you're interested in evaluating. Another way to approach this question is to ask everybody at the table, all right, what is it that you would like to be able to say about the program? Once the program is complete, what is it that you want to say? And the example I have here on the slide is a statement from Mandy's Farms, from one of its outcomes. Mandy's Farm, one of their outcomes is to improve the daily living standard for their clients. And they define one component of their daily living as adults with disabilities exerting full control over where they live, where they work, and who they spend time with. And if you worked in your rubric and you picked your outcome and started to write down what are the definitions of success for each outcome, feel free to use the rubric. But if you don't, that is fine. You can think about the statement based on, you can start with big picture statements, right? As Evaluation Lab, one of our statements is our partner organizations build evaluation capacity. And that is a very broad system. So what is it that we mean by that? And we start to cut it back into little pieces and start to define what that looks like. Okay. And just list these statements. What is it that you want to know? Once you have your statements, you can start translating those statements into goals. This is one of those things you will write down into an evaluation plan. You will write down the goal evaluation, and one good way to translate it or translate your, I'm gonna go back one slide. to translate your statements or the statements that your team is making about what they want to know about the organization is to add a verb to it. Okay. So for the case of the Mandy's farm statement, the goal of this evaluation is to learn how much control do clients have on their financial decisions and personal relationships. We just translated it into something we want to achieve. So just add a verb, what you want to learn, what you want to assess, what you want to compare, what you want to evaluate. The verb is fine, you can use it. The second one I have here is my rewrite of the work that one of the organizations we worked with last year in the same program you're in right now for this LANLF cohort was doing. She was this program director was doing this online curriculum, and we spent a bit of time defining this. She was in my team, and we came up with this one. The goal of this evaluation is to assess how effective is the training program in supporting teachers to plan, create, and implement an arts-based STEM online curriculum. So notice that she had all of these three things in here, and it took a while for us to think about what was the target audience, because she's working with teachers and scientists and middle schoolers and so on and so forth. So coming to this one statement of where you want to go with your evaluation is definitely your first step after defining and describing your program. Okay, I'm gonna pause here. Do you guys have any comments or questions? All right. All right. So this is our next step. So you have now, notice what you've done so far. If you follow these steps, you've come to a shared understanding of your mission and your goals. You have defined your your mission and your outcomes. You've defined your evaluation goal. Now you ask your questions. And these are three things that every evaluator that comes to your organization will do with you, right? They will meet with you to define these goals, to talk about how your organization looks like and what you want to achieve as an organization. But they won't jump in straight to evaluation questions, and there is a reason for it. The evaluation questions, what it does is that it gives you, so the only word that comes to me is in Spanish, but I guess like a corral. It will give you the bounds of your evaluation. It will tell the scope of your evaluation. It's very easy to start asking tons of questions about what you want to know. But as we all know, time and resources are limited. So prioritizing is key. And you're doing that prioritization from the beginning with your evaluation outcomes, with your goals, and now with your evaluation questions. So let's say you write one evaluation question. I recommend going through these three points as a filter. Is it these questions that we just wrote, is it directly related to evaluation goal? Yes, check. Is it open-ended? Check. Is it helpful for decision making? And if it's not, go back and rewrite it. Go back to the who, right? So to give you an example of how this is going to look like once you write it down, here is one fairly straightforward, I hope, and this is my hope, that is a fairly straightforward example of how this can work. So for the Mandy's Farm case, one of their goals was organization outcome was increased financial independence for their clients and decreasing reliance on caregivers for social interaction. They want their clients to have agency on their personal lives. Their goal was to learn how much control clients have over their financial decisions and personal relationships. And these are the questions they came up with. So what is the role of the caregiver in money decisions? Do they control the debit card? Do they decide where and when bank accounts get opened or closed? Or where does money from jobs go into, or which bank account gets that money? what makes it easier and or challenging for a client to find and maintain a job, right? And how do clients create and maintain friendships? These are still fairly broad. These are not survey questions. These are not protocol questions. We're not designing data collection. We're just focusing on what we want to know. If you start thinking, oh my goodness, how am I going to collect this data? Is this going to be a survey? Am I doing focus groups? What am I going to do to know this? You're just going to stump yourself and you're going to stop asking the questions you need to ask. I promise, just focus on what you want to know for now. And future trainings will walk you through the other steps. This one is a little different. This one is from a project, an evaluation I worked on about 4 years ago for a nonprofit that still works on providing mental health services for uninsured New Mexicans. And they were concerned about a couple, their evaluation goals were many. So I've spared you the long list we elaborated. And this is what came up as their priority: to assess barriers and access to access and adherence to mental health services. So basically, after much conversation with a lot of people, figure, oh, people are not looking for help, and when they have help, they have a hard time sticking to their plan to address their symptoms. So they wanted to know what's happening with their clients and what they can do better. One of the things they wanted to know is how are they learning about services? Are we leaving people in the community who are in great need of our services, and do we need to do more outreach? So it was linked to a decision. Why do clients leave mid-treatment? And on this one, they wanted to know, are they external forces, or is there something that them as an organization could do better to prevent this from happening? And this one was also related to the second bullet point: how do clients perceive the quality of services received? This one is a very interesting question because their program also has insurance enrollment support. And what that means is that it's possible, they were concerned that people did not feel supported when it came to looking into eligibility for Medicaid or other forms of insurance. So is it possible that maybe it came in the insurance enrollment part of things, or is it coming in interaction with the therapist? The other question they had, or they were thinking, is, well, it's possible that this is related to how safe people feel in the organization. And safety can have a lot to do with where the clinic is located. Do they feel safe going into the neighborhood, or leaving their neighborhoods to go to their clinic? But also inside the clinic, they found, and they knew this was a problem, they were trying to fix it, that not all the rooms were completely soundproof, and some people were a little bit shy about going to talk to a therapist when you don't have a fully soundproof room. The other one was first-time service clients. Those were the ones that were more likely to leave mid-treatment. So we prioritized, this was a lot to do in 1 year and with the resources that they had. So we focused on how do clients learn about services, just to assess whether there was need for outreach, identifying barriers to stay in treatment, and for first-time clients, identifying areas of improvement in client triaging, which kind of cut into the insurance part and the whole thing, like how do they welcome basically a client, and how do they triage across all the services they provide. So we focus on those, and we identify also how they were going to use this information, not just for the one-time evaluation, but as an ongoing evaluation as their program was changing. Okay, I'm going to pause right now. Does this make sense? Are we all good? Questions? I cannot see all the faces, I'm sorry. Okay, and some are off. Okay, sounds good. once you have this information, and I know I added in the previous example, I added how it's going to be used. So I probably should have added this as my step 4, but once these evaluation questions are in place, you want to go into the more internal questions, right? What decisions will the evaluation findings influence? Are we talking staffing, funding, program design? Really nothing. I don't think we're going to do anything with it right now. Who will make the decisions? Is this for the director, mid-management, or everybody? Who's going to use it? When? If you have a deadline, like, we can apply for this grant, and if we know what issue we're having, we can introduce that into our upcoming grant writing cycle. And how much influence do you expect the evaluation to have? And be as realistic as you possibly can on this one, just to be frank. And this step is a step that will prompt you to go back to your objective, to your organization goals, to your evaluation objectives, the other way around, and to your evaluation questions, and to re-examine them. So it's not a linear process. It's an iterative process where you ask these questions and you keep going back until you're refining and obtain something that matters for your mission. The last point in here, what kind of data do you need for the evaluation to have influence you want it to have? For today, I want to encourage you, and in general, when you're doing this, I want to encourage you to not think about it just yet until you've done a couple iterations of these steps. But I put this in as a segue into what's coming for future trainings for this program, because once we have these questions and we've identified them, we're ready to give the next step. Now we're ready to think about the data that we want to begin collecting to inform our evaluation. Okay. So, and I don't know, I apologize for being so repetitive on this, but I just want to emphasize, evaluation is it's a learning process. You will 100% sure make mistakes, and we all have. None of us is exempt from that rule. And the thing is, the mistake you make on one round will help you build up stronger on the next round. That's what evaluation is. It's not just learning about yourself and your organization, but learning how to evaluate your organization in a way that is meaningful to you. And that can take time, that can take a bit of trial and error, and that is okay. All right. So, yeah. For our next step, we have our work on your own section. And for the work on your own section, hold on a sec. Let me pull out my Word document and share it with you guys.
That's also available on the regular website. Caitlin, can you drop the link in? Is that what you were going to do? Sorry.
Yeah, that's what I was going to do. That's okay. Hold on. Let me share that with you. So this is what you're going to find. Can you guys see the Word document? All right. This is what you're going to find on the website. And it is just the steps we just discussed to walk you through it. And as I said, it's an iterative process. You will find that you will go back and forth between these, and that's fine. So the product of these, by the time you're done, should be your evaluation goal and your evaluation questions. These are the same steps that were on my slide. And if you need to go back and look at an example, here is an example, the one I described before for the organization doing mental health services. And if you prefer to write within a template just to keep your thought process aligned, here is a template, and in the document you can just click in and you should be able to just type in it. Okay. And of course, if you prefer to just do a more flexible format, do your Jamboard with Post-its or just write things down by hand, that's perfectly okay. Okay. I don't know where my controls are anymore. Okay, there. All right. Do you guys have any questions for me? Any concerns? Comments?
It's like really clear and helpful, Claudia. Thank you.
I'm so glad, Kelly. That's awesome. Okay, so why don't we go into our own rooms right now? And if you want your a moderator person to come with you, just let us know and we'll come in here and just talk it out loud with you. Okay. All right. Are the rooms open, Caitlin? All right. I don't see it in mine. Are they open?
They should be open.
If you click on breakout rooms, mine says there's 20 created. Does everyone see that? Are they open, Caitlin?
Close and reopen them, and then that usually solves the problem. Okay, so wait, Caitlin does that and she doesn't feel weighed by the awkward silence.
I got it.
No, but I want to share this. We had a guest speaker come to our class and he had these fantastic book recommendations. So if you're looking a book for yourselves or your book club or your friends or whatever, it's a book called Weapons of Math, like mathematics, math destruction. And it's a great book. I highly recommend it. Okay, so we're ready to go. All right, thanks, Caitlin. Okay, I think we're all back. So why don't we do a quick debrief from our discussions? We had a great one, but I'm not gonna call anybody. I don't want to put you on the spot, but if the other teams have someone that would like to chime in.
We had a great one too, I think.
We're just shy. It's okay.
Yeah, we had a great group and discussion.
All right. So why don't we go one person from each of the groups? Sally's like, don't call me.
I was just thinking I'll unmute and go. Okay, so we have had a really great conversation with Claudia. It's so helpful. Kind of just like asking us, so Santini and I were working with Claudia for a while. She was asking us questions about our project, our project together. And then really like trying to understand like what we really are sort of bringing people together to do. And I think one of the things that was really helpful, super helpful, was just that like we've already asked people to sort of tell us their goals for our project through a registration form, tell us some of the goals. So we've defined some of them, but like also we've had people tell us like sort of their self-select into some goals, or Claudia called them. And so it was just helpful to think about, like, make sure to use those goals as like evaluation questions. Like, did you meet the goals that you selected? Did we help you meet those goals, and to what extent? So I think that was super helpful, having the time to like think through this sort of evaluation piece, but also in the context of like also the project model and like things that I've been sort of thinking about with rubric. Like it really brought everything together.
Thank you, Tal.
I'm happy to go from my group.
My group, yeah, go ahead.
It's so cool in our little group that we all serve youth, and looking at our really long-term outcomes and how they all intersect. And if it's okay, I'm just going to go ahead and share, because you all might like to see what we worked on. And please don't get too overwhelmed by how far we got. I'm very lucky in having Mariah, and she had to leave, but this is what Mariah does for a living for decades already. So I'm just lucky to have her, and I hope that everybody can see this. So what I want to focus on, so we're looking at program outcomes is new creative skills, emotional literacy, confidence and knowledge of personal capacity. This is an arts program in the Chama Valley schools. Critical thinking skills, more self-control, and a sense of community renewal. So we want to measure emotional literacy growth, students' commitment to the creative process, critical thinking, and engagement with their peers. And I should probably put positive engagement with their peers now that I'm looking at this. And how do the students handle challenge is going to be one of our evaluation questions. What are students' reactions to learning new skills? And do they persevere when a project does not go as planned? How do students reflect on their work? Do students support each other's learning? And are students willing to listen to conflicting viewpoints? And can they answer open-ended questions? So this was just very good for me to start to build those questions, because I'm teaching this and I can see what I'm doing to build towards my goals, but to actually have the questions to ask myself and to present, this is how we're looking at it. It's just so clarifying.
I like the comment. Thank you for sharing that, Anita. I like the comment that another member in the group said, "Oh, my child needs to be in this program." So I just wanted to share that. I love the idea of asking these questions that help you then think about how you're delivering the content. And Anita was also sharing that she wants the children to know what it is that she's helping them learn. And it just occurred to me about how much, my kids are grown now, but how much the emphasis, I think, at least I felt like my role as a parent was to a little bit of helicopter, a little bit of snowplow, and how that's failed bad. If I could go back and do Anita's program, it would all be about, oh, here's a challenge. What are your resources that you can use to bring to bear on them? So I have a lot of hope for the next generation of kids being raised in this more intelligent way. Thanks, Anita. Claudia, did we lose you?
Yeah, the computer decided to run an update.
Telling you.
I'm on my laptop. Thank goodness I brought it.
So we heard from two of the groups now.
Okay.
Do we have a third?
Does anybody from my group, all three were very strong. Anyone could share their screen and tell us how your thinking went along today's topic. I'm not going to say names. You can just, any one of you will be great. Hello? Okay, I will say names. Christy or Julie, anyone?
I was gonna volunteer just to
Okay,
talk for
please.
a second about. So one of the things that this started making me think about that I had described in my small group is that, for this program, because I work with teachers and I work with students, there's actually sort of two totally different audiences for evaluating. And so I was looking today, I focused in on the student evaluation, which will be different when I focus in on the teacher evaluation. So if we'd had another hour, I might've started working on that one. But it's for the student evaluation, I actually feel like that's more, it's easier, I think, to come up with the things you want to assess them for, because it's tied to science standards and what they should be learning in their classroom. And we're really there to help support the teachers. And so it'll be when I get into the teachers that I think more about how to really reflect, their thinking on what's happening in their classroom and what's happening with their students and the impact of the program. So.
I really like how you split it by your target audience.
Yeah.
Your outcomes are even if the outcomes are similar, you have to tackle them differently. That's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And then we work with volunteers, and I also want feedback from them, but that's very, was it organized? Did we communicate well? Those are very, I think, simpler feedback to get. So.
All right. Okay. So I think we want to keep the schedule going. Melissa, what's our next step?
Well, I wonder if we have another minute, because I just noticed that that Kristen put her camera on. So I don't know if Kristen wants to say something. Not that you can put your camera on with no pressure, but.
No, I just wasn't sure who was going. I guess I just wanted to bring up that I think we really did have a great conversation around the topic of evaluation questions and those specifically, and how sometimes it's not thinking about them as the things you need to ask yourself in order to find out the things that you want to learn, and thinking really in depth about the evaluation questions themselves, and trying to separate those from what you would actually ask people in your your visitors or your students or something, versus what you're asking yourselves as an organization and as a team. So we really spent a lot of time trying to wrap our brains around the differences and the similarities and what the actual question might be.
Cool.
Did you come
Thanks
up
for
with
that.
anything? That's a very interesting point.
I guess just more work needed to be done, that this is not a something in 20 minutes to really figure out all the time, but just trying to write it and then rewrite it and then rewrite it again.
I mean, they really went to the root of what do we really want to know? That was their exploration. And then other things will follow from there. What do we want to know? And then from whom do we want to know it? And then accordingly, you would design the questions, right?
And I just want to iterate that we're really trying to help you, we want to give you tools so that, and a taste of you get into it so you can see what's possible. And then, if our, exhortation that, okay, you will set aside 1.5 to 2 hours, if you can schedule that time and just continue to have these conversations, I think that over time, over the period of the evaluation lab, there'll be something. So I'm excited about that. So I guess, yeah, we want to close now. Claudia, do you want to show the slides and
Sorry, guys. Slow computer.
if you just start it up, I have mine right here, if that would be easier.
Probably yes. 'Cause
Okay.
oh no, it came up. It's okay. Sorry about
Okay.
that. All right. Do you see it, hon?
Yeah, we can see it.
Okay. So as Melissa said, so between now and our next get together, I'm gonna call them that, on April 14, take time to do this, just review and edit your evaluation goals and your questions. And going back to what matters is really the key to getting to useful questions, bring people to the table. You'd be surprised, one little tweak, one little thing will give you that much more usefulness out of your evaluation. If you're gonna do that work, make it useful, right? On March 15, we're gonna have, I think you're talking about the echo on this one, Melissa. There is a logic model share out from Jay from Santa Fe YouthWorks. And you will have to put up with yet another didactic from me, this time on surveys, for those of you who choose to show up. And this is more of a how to build a survey. For those of you who are interested in creating a survey and link it to what we did today, I'd be happy to, feel free to reach out via email. I'll be happy to talk to you about that. Because the next week's presentation is more about how the mechanics of it. All right. And we have our next Eval Institute on April 14 from 1 to 3 on different options for data collection. Okay. All right. And finally, hold on. Here is the link to the survey. Can you guys put it on the link? I can do it. I guess I have it right here. I have it right here. I'll copy it and paste it. If not, if you have your phones available, you can also scan the QR code. And we really do appreciate your feedback. We tweak, and this is an ongoing process. Even though we've done this, I think this is our second round with this virtual process. We've done it in person before, but every time different groups need different things. So your feedback is always welcome. All right. Anything else? Am I missing anything, Melissa?
No. So if you leave that on so people can go ahead and do the survey, and then, someone in my group was talking about how the program can't really get started until there's relationship building. And I feel like, I don't know about the rest of you, but I feel like it was like a get together. So it's really nice to work with you all over time. So we just have a few more of these sessions to go, and